All right, so I believe this is all we need to do, and yeah, so we need to actually set the loading back to false, because when we don't getting our promise, like when we've resolved the promise, we need to actually set the loading back to false. Okay, and this is all we need to do. Then we can just return the result. Okay, this is an hook, so we need to actually return a value. So what we can return is the result, and I believe this is all we need to do. And yeah, so at the end of the day, we need to actually return some some hooks. Okay, so let's just say return loading and with loading. So we need to actually return these values so that we can actually use them within our components. Okay, so I think that should be all. Now let's just export our module, this module that we just created, and let's just export default and use loading. Okay, so this is the hook that we've just created. Yeah, so let's go back into our components and try to use that. Let's just try to use that hook. Okay, so let's go and import this the hook that we just created. So we're just going to say constant loading. Okay, if you remember, we are actually exporting these two values. So loading and we also with loading. Okay, so we're actually exporting these two modules. So let me just bring the terminal down, because we don't actually need to see all what's going on. And right here, this is going to be use loading. Okay, so this is called array destructuring, because we're getting these values from the hook itself. Okay, so if you don't know anything about destructuring of items in JavaScript, you need to actually read more, because it's going to save you a whole lot of stress. So this will be loading. Let's just import that. Import use loading from, and this will be oops slash use loading. Okay, and I think this is all we need to do. And so what we just need to do is make this an async request, async, and we're just going to await the result that we're getting from that operation. So this will be with loading, and we need to actually pass this request as a parameter. This is a promise request. We need to pass this as a parameter to that particular uh, hook that we created. So to actually visualize this, let's just go ahead and console.log on category. Okay, yeah, so let's just go into our browser and actually visualize that. Let's me open the inspector tool, and if we should refresh right now, let's see what happens. We're getting some errors. Okay, these are warnings. I just clear that, and yeah, so you can see we've gotten our data, and this is the data that we gotten from the endpoint. Okay, so this data should be saved to our readers now, and yeah, so you can see our readers now has those data. So basically this is all we want, and this is all we want. So we can now go ahead and start building uh the remaining part of our component. Okay, so this is good, looks good so far. And yeah, so let's go back into our code and start um building the rest of our component. So there's one thing that happens here. So this method loads every time the pages loads, like every time the component is being mounted. So we need to actually check if there is items within our categories that is in the radius, so we don't need to keep loading this over and over again. So since we have access to the categories within our radius, we can just come here and do a very simple condition. So if the length of the categories is is less than one, that means the array is an empty array, so we can just um, make the call. If not, then we don't make the call. That means if we already have categories in our readers, we don't need to actually make the call. This will be useful if we start navigating through the pages. For example, we go into the cart page and want to return to our landing page or our home page. We don't need to actually go back and load all those um, categories anymore because we already have them within our readers. So basically, that's just all we need to do. So let's now start building our component. We need to actually populate this view with this categories card based on the length of categories we're getting from the endpoint. So let's just go ahead and do that. And right here, we need to do some React fragments. Okay, so let's put this inside that, and we need to do a simple map. So, but before then, we need to check if we're loading values from our endpoint. So we're going to say if loading is true. Okay, so that means if loading is true, we're still sending some, we're still getting some data. The request is still ongoing. So we just want to say loading categories and products. Okay, hope this makes sense. And if loading is not true, we just go ahead and assume we if loading is not true, that means we've gotten our categories and they are right there within readers and we can start using them. So this will be categories dot length. Okay, so if the categories dot length, this is just like another precaution that we need to do, is greater than 0. Okay, if we have categories dot length greater than 0, I'm just using ternary operator to actually output this. So just follow it. It's a very simple process. Okay, if you understand what ternary operator does, you're going to understand what I'm trying to do right here. So we're going to say categories. Okay, dot map, because it's an array. We can actually map through the array. So this will be category. Okay, and right here we can now output the components within this block. So I missed the spelling right here. This categories. Yeah, so I think we've gotten the spelling correct. So let's just go ahead and move this within that block. Yeah, so basically this is all we need to do. And yeah, so let's see that. All right, so we need to actually pass a key to this, and the key is just to make sure React keep track of the elements that is going to render. So this will be category. So this is referring to a single category now. So we're going to be using the ID as the key, and right here within our category, let's just go ahead and pass the category itself that will map into the value into the category card. Okay, so we need to also receive this value from the category component itself. So this might sound a lot, but it's actually how you can actually get how to actually work with stuff like this. Okay, so this makes sense. So the next thing we need to do is we need to actually finish this ternary operation, and if loading is false, we can just go ahead and say h4, and we can just say no category available. Okay, available, let me just get the spelling correct. Available, and basically this is all we need to do. So this is not actually greater than, it's actually, yeah, an arrow. So that's an arrow method, and basically this is all we need to do. So let's go back into our categories, and you can see category not defined. Let's see that. Okay, yeah, so you can see we've actually gotten our categories. So you can see this is not dynamic, but then we still need to actually uh, build our category card to actually reflect the true data themselves. So let's just stop here for this video, and in the next video we're going to be building a category card, and I'll see you in the next video, guys.